Well, hi, everybody, and welcome back to Talkin Wellness. My name is Christian.
It's your boy, Mykel.
And I'm Kayla.
And we're coming back to you with a very interesting episode. As you saw by the title, we're talking about AUD, also known as Alcohol Use Disorder, because this month is Alcohol Awareness Month. Talking a little bit about this, we're a recovery podcast as much as we are a wellness podcast, so we really wanted to shine some light on this topic, and I know that we've talked about it in different segments before, including Kayla's story, but way back when last year, so we wanted to definitely have a conversation about it in terms of like what it is, what are some things that we see happen because of this, and moreover, a little bit of Kayla's story to see your story of how you got through this journey of alcohol use disorder, and maybe Mykel and I can share a little bit of our perspective of what we've seen happen around us and stuff like that. So, first of all, let's start with definitions, right? I think any smart conversation should start with definitions. So, alcohol use disorder is a chronic, relapsing brain disease characterized by an inability to stop or control alcohol use despite negative consequences at work, school, home, socially, etc. According to the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, NIAAA, AUD is a medical condition that doctors diagnose when a patient's drinking causes distress or harm. So there's a little bit more, but we can get into it through our conversation. So I want to start with definitions here. What do we think about that definition in terms of our experience working with people in the field who actually do have this diagnosis?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it sounds like or like any other addiction. Not like any other addiction.
No,
it's
for
obviously
sure.
alcohol, but as far as the definition, it sounds like AUD equals addiction to alcohol.
For sure.
The inability to live without alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And that can mean a bunch of different things. That could mean not being able to function in your daily life without alcohol, not being able to function in your daily life without having alcohol after to be like the reward for your day. So it really depends on the person and how they use alcohol. I was never a big alcohol person. I know when I turned 21, I didn't drink until I was 21, first of all. I was never like an early drinker. It was very much like I want to wait.
Do you think that you drank at 21 because there's such a societal...
I could tell you exactly why I drank.
Okay,
I drank at 21 because I wanted to be a soccer player. I wanted to be like a pro, and I was very convicted about the things I did and put in my body, so I didn't want to drink, smoke, do nothing. And
so you
also,
had strong values in your adolescence, which held you from drinking.
Yeah, it was a bit of like because of my mom's whole story, I didn't want to go into stuff, and also my own personal convictions of not wanting to limit my ability as a soccer player.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny about that? Like that's what I used, but like every time as I said it, I knew like I could still do stuff.
Yeah.
But it's almost like because I did that, I like made myself not do it. It was like a seatbelt. It was like it was like me checking myself.
Yeah.
Like
You know
when I
what's
would say that,
interesting?
even though
Yeah.
I would want to do it and have those experiences, it was like, no, I'm not going to.
Yeah, I love that though, because I think that when...
And that's what conviction is.
No, for sure. And when youth have something, this is why I believe in like extracurricular stuff, like getting youth involved in whether it's sports or something, because Cooper, my son, has that same type of conviction, because when I ask him and we have like conversations about drugs and I, share with him, obviously like he's a teenager and, like there's stuff that's happening in the schools and like his friends, and we have real conversations. I ask him, I'm like, do you have any interest in that, experimenting and all that? And he's like, no, like basketball, like I'm an athlete and I can't put things like that in my body. So having like a conviction where your values are like tied to that.
That's why I always say it's important to get your kids involved in things.
Yeah,
Because
so
like if you don't, they're going to get
interesting.
distracted by other things.
For sure. And I don't know what his
it's just a
journey's
matter
gonna
of
be,
time.
but-
It's inevitable. And like, not even to bring it to a sexist point, especially for men, like, I don't know what it is about little boys. Like, they're super curious. I don't know about little girls either. I
think all adolescents
I'm talking
are
from my
curious.
perspective.
Yeah.
And like growing up with my brothers and like seeing how we all were, there's just that big appetite for like curiosity of doing things and being reckless.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
if you don't have like those things that are in spots for you to do, like whether it's playing music in a group or in a choir or playing soccer or in a rec team, if you don't have those things that are tying you down to convictions or people that you're responsible for are not doing certain things, then you're gonna be reckless.
Well,
especially as a kid.
I agree. And you know what
kids,
I think
what do
about?
they say about kids all the time? You're literally like you're drunk people. You're a drunk person, or they say it about babies. But they say you're like a drunk person. You're honest as hell, and it's true. You really are. You're gonna be honest with your intentions and what you want to do.
Yeah, yeah. And I think honestly with alcohol, when you think about, like, I always ask, like why is it that people want to drink alcohol? You know, like even asking myself that, right? Like why, you know, say I'm born and I'm, you know, now I'm a kid and I'm getting older. Like why does the thought in your mind come to want to drink alcohol? Yeah. What do you guys think?
That was hilarious that you asked that question because my brother Tony and them just went on a cruise to Mexico, and his son AJ is like 15. They took a shot in Mexico because it's legal to drink. Mm-hmm. And he came back. He's like, bro, that was so nasty. He's like, it's so disgusting. I don't know why people drink. And he's 15.
Yeah.
And I think we've all said that.
Yeah.
Like everybody I know that's underage drink. And even when I drank when I was 21, we all said it. We're like, alcohol's gross. It's nasty. Yeah. Like, why would you want to do this? You know? And it's just like, everyone thinks that way, but we all understand that people drink because like it's become like a norm. It's become a societal norm.
Right.
We're going to go and get drunk. We're going to get
it's
hammered
commercialized
and
as
have a good
fun
time.
And good time.
Exactly.
And like even family, like when you look at like commercials and they do like
but it just goes to show you like from kids from a young point, if we didn't ever push them to be that way, they would be like, this is gross.
Right.
I don't want to ever drink.
Right.
They're going to find other things and avenues to do.
Right.
The thing is, the alcohol business and advertisement companies make tons of money, and they put a lot of commercials out, and they put a lot of that stuff out to make it seem like alcohol's not that bad.
Right. And then
it's in music. It's in a lot of music.
It's in everything.
It's in everything.
And then we like, I know for me, like wanting to turn 21, the only reason I wanted to turn 21 was so I could legally drink. Like, think about how much emphasis. Like, imagine if like we put emphasis on something else, like something good, right? With 21, like your ability to.
It's either to be able to drink or go into a club to be able to drink.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know, like,
really
like imagine if we tied it to like just something else, right? Like birthdays, right? Like 18 is your legal, right? Like that was like the reason for 18, 16, you get to drive, 15 learners, and then 21, like you get to drink. I mean, if you
think about it,
like we celebrate 21 for drinking.
That's the last significant age you really have, if you think about it. Yeah. For most people, I obviously
would argue
30s
30
and your 40s.
I would argue 30 is a big one too, because a lot of people.
I argue that
30.
as well, for sure. Because when you hit 30, you're like, youth is ending, and adulthood is starting to be the main priority. Focus up.
And I thought it was cool, right? Like when I was younger, like because I think about like, you know, obviously like I am a person in recovery. I went through my addiction and all these things. I didn't think the first time I was gonna, you know, drink alcohol, and I did think it was nasty too, that, you know, hey, 10 years from now, you're going to be like, you know, incarcerated on how like all this stuff would happen. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the time, you know, even when we talk about like alcohol and youth and prevention and all these things, it's like, I always think like, you know, like, why do we put such an emphasis, you know, as a society? And obviously you just said it, nail on that, or hammer on the nail, is the money, right? That goes into the alcohol industry. Yeah. And it's become such a norm. Like if when you look at alcohol and like they say like, you know, alcohol is a drug, it's a substance, it changes your mind, your mood, you're altering, but the accessibility of something like that, and the accessibility in the sense of like restaurants, bars, and people know like when I go to this place and I drink a lot and then hopefully I'm not getting in my vehicle and driving, right? But the risk factors that come with like alcohol and alcohol use, you know, and for people that, you know, drink to that.
And it's interesting too, because like I feel like hard drinking is possibly going away. Like people aren't hard drinking as much and blacking out, but I feel like socially drinking and like chill drinking is way more prevalent.
So
like the seltzers and stuff like that. I feel like that's made drinking like coffee.
To that point. I just want to speak on it a little bit. I used to, a friend of mine, he does a lot of AV work, audio visual, for like conferences and stuff like that. But he also, on the side, he does DJing, and he does work at clubs for lights and shows and stuff like that. So I got to join him a few times for those club shows, and that was only 2 years ago. I don't necessarily know if that culture is necessarily disappearing. Sadly.
I don't think it is either.
Like hard drinking culture?
Yeah. Like I can't even talk about people in the street when I went to spring break. Like I had this lady like leaning on me, and I forgot who was next to me. They were leaning on us, like trying to be like, you know.
I was at the beach playing volleyball yesterday, and there were some.
You know what? It could be just
I
me
was like,
not going out
dang.
and seeing it as much because I don't go out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
that
and
makes a lot of sense because it
Yeah.
goes back to the point I was saying that I see a lot more of like people just drinking regularly. Like have
yeah.
you seen like?
But
the
I
gin
also
and
agree
juice?
with you. Like there is also this culture of, and I think seltzers
literally
have
like
really brought that.
coffee.
Yeah.
like every day, all day.
Their seltzers have really brought, you know, the vodka seltzers and the
like have you seen the gin and juice new juice?
Gin and juice,
like
White
literally
Claws,
juice
High
and gin in
Noons.
it, and people
I
drink
think
them all
they're
day.
really doing a good job of making it. Because why else do you drink a seltzer? What other capacity or what other format would you drink a
Then
seltzer?
they get a buzz.
Not alcohol ones, just a regular water flavored seltzer. Oh, well, it's summer, so you crack a Waterloo or you crack a bubbly.
But
and
it's
then,
just
like,
another marketing tease.
But that's what I'm saying.
That's
what I'm
all
saying.
it is.
And now they figured that out, and now like, oh, then let's add vodka and
Yeah.
other stuff
and
into it.
people are trying to be more healthy and calorie deficit, so we're gonna make these all like low calorie.
0 calorie vodka seltzer shots. There you go. Have fun. That's one thing.
Yeah.
And then I think another reason people like to drink alcohol is because not just because it's ingrained into our party culture or just our culture in general. I also think people are know that it's an escape.
Yes.
I
That's the
agree.
number one reason.
I'll
Yeah.
never forget
Number one
back years ago when I lived
That's
in
such a good point after
California.
that.
I had an acquaintance. I don't want to reveal them just in case, but I had an acquaintance, somebody in my life that told me a story about the time where their girlfriend broke up with them, and they were underage at the time, and his dad had bought box wine, and he drank a regular big tall bottle of wine, and he drank the whole thing by himself
Like a liter.
in that week, like bigger than this.
Yeah,
bottle right
they have like liter wine bottles. Those things are crazy.
He drank it all by himself in one night, and he called me in the middle of the night of that drinking session, and he was out of it. I have never heard this person slur their words before like they did that time. They've never done it again, however, that I know of. However, they called me that night, and they told me that what they were doing, and I was like, bro, this isn't what's going on, man. This is crazy. Yeah, but that was one of those prime examples where I remember that person just telling me and seeing that with my own eyes how alcohol has also become a tool to like forget or
For sure.
and I also think it's because of the culture. Because the culture tells you, oh, you just broke up, have a few beers and you're good to go.
Oh, you're nervous about getting on stage to talk to people? Here, take a shot.
Take a shot of whiskey.
You feel
Take
a
a
little
shot of-
anxiety? Here. Oh, you're having
Yeah.
problems with your spouse? Come out with the
And then you're answering your problems with problems.
Right.
There you go.
It's that mentality. That's why I always ask people, well, because listen, I don't judge people that drink. People drink socially and all of those things. But when I have even friends that like don't necessarily identify with having like an alcohol use disorder, but are like literally like teeter-tottering with like consequences, blackout or whatever, and they will reach out to me. I'm like, well, think about why you're drinking. Like when you go out, like what's the why behind you drinking and like why you're drinking in multiple excess? Because oftentimes if you are looking to drink to escape something, one, alcohol is a depressant. So you're not going to feel real good the next day. And
That's the thing. You'll
becomes
feel
that
good
cycle.
then, but then later.
Yeah. And, and like people, I think, put so much emphasis on like alcohol to make you feel better, to give you courage. Like they say, oh,
Liquid
here's some
courage.
liquid
Liquid courage,
courage.
yeah.
Like it's all of these things I think that play into like just people's perception and idea about it to where it becomes enticing. It becomes something that as a teenager, a youth is like, oh, I can't wait to be able to try this. Right.
Absolutely. When I was, I'll share my story. When I turned 21, it was kind of the worst situation that could have happened. I turned 21. A week later, my grandfather passed away, and I could not go to the funeral. No, sorry, a week before, my grandfather had passed away, and the week later, that day was the funeral, and I was living in my house while my parents went off to Puerto Rico for his funeral. I called my friend, not the same one from the story, another one. And I went to buy my first drink because I knew that I was going to need it, quote unquote, for the funeral because I watched it on Facebook Live that day. And that's one of those few stories.
So you thought you were going to need the drink for the funeral.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And while I was watching...
Why did you think that?
Well, at the time, I had just turned 21, and based on everything around me, at that time, I really did believe that alcohol was the only way.
Why did you... Well, I know you said you've seen it in your...
No, it was a
realm
culture
of
thing.
life.
It was absolutely a culture thing. I literally thought that...
You've seen people suppress problems with alcohol
Exactly.
in your family.
So it's
and
like,
stuff.
so I'm going to drink wine right now because I know I'm going to be sad, and this is going to help me not feel as sad. So let me just drink wine. I'll never forget. It was a very powerful day because it was a really dark realization in my life where I was like, wait a minute, what am I doing?
How old? You said you're 21?
I had just turned 21.
Okay.
So this was 5 years ago almost now. And this was it was one of those dark days, you know. And I thought about that a lot, especially since working here. That thought has come back a lot because I support a lot of young people who had a drink issue they saw in them, and I think about that time and I'm like, well, now with the information that I have, what would I have done different? What would have been a cool coping skill that I could have used in that moment?
Right.
Well, my buddy is a huge vlogger kind of personality. Like, he loves making videos. What if we would have gone on a trip that day after the funeral? We planned a trip, go do something fun and like something different, which we
to get you out of
to get me out of my headspace, right?
Yeah.
And I know it would have worked because we had done that before, and after that day, like we would go on these crazy adventures, make these stupid vlogs, like really have fun and get distracted for a while. And I don't know, it just really makes me think about that a lot. How a lot of people utilize drinking because they've been told by some form of society, whether it be TV, music, the industry,
consciously or subconsciously,
or maybe in their own families, that will help them feel better.
And then they want to feel better.
And I find it even interesting, not to like take away from your story at all. Like I find it even interesting, like how you say like maybe we could have even did this instead, you know, but like. Sometimes it seems like it's never an option for people never to be like, maybe we could have even sat in my emotion and experienced it.
Right.
And that's a thing. I feel like it took me a long time to realize that. And I'm like the number one suppressor of emotions and feelings. So like, I think it's important for people to realize like a lot of times, yes, I want to do alcohol to cope, but it's going to be more beneficial for me to feel these emotions and feel these experiences so that later on, I don't have to think 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, 1 month, however long, and have those feelings come up because they're gonna come back eventually.
100%.
Yeah.
If you don't answer or deal with something correctly, whether it's job, school, homework, whatever it is, it's gonna come back to bite you in like some way.
Yeah.
So like if you don't deal with your feelings in the way you truly feel in the right way, and you kind of like, let's go to a theme park or whatever, and then come back another day, you're gonna feel sad.
Yeah,
it's just
for
gonna
sure.
hit you. It just happens, and that's one thing I've learned for sure.
It's funny because that's actually like the process of recovery is like when you, especially like, so someone like me, I've had substance use recovery. Part of that was one, removing all the substances, but then two, dealing with all
The fact
of
that it is
the
an
feelings,
issue. Yeah.
all of the, not even the substances. I always say like that was not the issue. The issues were what was going, what led me to what I chose to use to cope with the issues. So I agree with that 100%. Is like, how do we find ways to like allow ourselves to go through the emotions in a safe way, right? Doesn't mean that we don't have like wellness tools to support that, because we may need the support of a friend.
Because life is all about hard things and going through hard crap. And I feel like the last 20, 30 years, as things have changed and as the generation changed, the generations have all been about how can we cope? That. Yes.
We want to
How can we cope through? How can we escape through these things that are going to happen? How can we cope with death? How can we cope with not agreeing with all of our family members or dysfunctional family? Or how can we cope with like
something that
unhappy
happened to us.
workplaces, you know? And it's like, these are all things that are going to happen. You don't have to cope with them. You just have to emotionally deal with them. You need to understand that this is something that everybody deal with, and you need to find a way that's healthy of dealing with them rather than putting them off or distracting yourself with something. And that's the biggest problem I feel like that happens with people. And that's why everybody lives for the weekend, or everybody lives for one day instead of like living day by day happily fulfilled. That's one of the things that we didn't get to answer in the thing. And I wrote was, would you rather be happy or fulfilled? And like, I feel like a lot of people struggle every day with their happiness because they're not worried about what's fulfilling them.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And one more point I wanted to make, I don't want to forget it. One thing I really, like that is very interesting to me. I watched a YouTube video the other day, and it was breaking down, like, one of my favorite YouTubers, he like went undercover as a furry into a furry convention, and he wanted to interview a bunch of furries and like why they are the way.
For those that don't know, those are the people that dress up as
the costumes
as animals, like lions or whatever.
Yeah,
They don't even dress up. They like act like them.
Well,
too,
they
right?
act like them too, but
sometimes they could have like noises depending on whatever.
Yeah,
and
they
those
dress
suits are
up
expensive.
in these like big outfits and like ginormous eyes, and
these are
whatever.
like $2,000 to $20,000 suits. So these are expensive
Wow.
suits. Yeah,
They
no,
dedicate
they're
time to
serious
this.
things. So like, he was asking a bunch of questions and like kind of getting to know everybody behind the mask. And the one thing I realized, the number one reason people were doing it, and it's kind of like obvious when you think about it, is escapism. Is like to be the freedom of expression, to be yourself without caring about who, like, is like, who's that weirdo doing that? Or like to dance and go whatever and lose your mind and no one knows who that is. And I feel like that's exactly why a lot of people do alcohol. It's like literally putting a mask on, and you want that anonymity or whatever the word is.
Yeah,
of just
anonymity.
not like caring and not having that feeling of pressure or stress and different things like that. And alcohol lets you suppress that. So I feel like a lot of the time what people deal with is that escapism.
Yeah.
And trying to get out of the world's status quo and trying to be exactly what everybody wants us to be or projects us to be.
Absolutely.
And I feel like if people were way more comfortable with just being themselves, there would be so many less drugs and so many less coping mechanisms like that.
Yeah.
Like, and I honestly, like, I had a big perception of furries and stuff like that. And like, obviously I think anybody would be like, that's kind of weird. But like, when you really see that and like, you hear the conversations coming from some people, some of the people were like engineers and like had serious jobs. It's just, they felt like they could never show this level of silliness or be their true authentic self or kid self because of that, you know? So it's interesting to see how people really cope through things in order to be themselves.
Yeah, I mean, think about in the context of just general. I identify a lot with the world of being a nerd. Even though I don't know if I consider myself a nerd, but I identify a lot with the
Like
culture.
cosplay and anime.
Cosplays, animes, watching Marvel, DC, superhero, reading comics. I have my own comics. I read all the time. But what's it called? A lot of the people in my life that I've met who are quote unquote nerds or geeks, whatever word they like, they are often struggling with a lot of mental health. And I'll never forget, I actually asked this once. I was over at a Tate's comic book here in Broward County. I know we don't normally plug in stuff, but I really want to plug them because they're really cool. But I was talking with somebody when I went to visit, and I asked him, like, why do you like comic books so much? Like, because they were telling me about all the comics that they were planning to get. It was an older gentleman. And they told me, well, the reason I like comics is because I felt alone when I was a kid, and these were my friends.
Wow.
Like reading these stories of these superheroes were like Spider-Man is a nerdy kid. Like, he was a nerdy kid who was bullied, and he got bit by a spider and became a superhero.
Yeah.
Like, what young child or youth doesn't want?
I mean, look
that?
at Captain America.
Yeah.
Story.
Escapism, right?
Yeah.
Captain America, a young individual who was not fit for the army and all he wanted to do was serve. He went through the super soldier thing, and he became a superhero. Like these are the reason why quote unquote nerds or geeks fall in love with these stories is because it's them.
Yeah.
Dr. Banner is this super smart doctor who all he wanted to do was become like Captain America, and he becomes the Hulk. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like these stories relate to people because, like you said, and I love the word you use, escapism, right? It allows you to envision yourself as that, even if it's just for a few hours, and just kind of express your truest identity in an unjudging space.
Yeah, and I really think that with the groups is like, because there's like groups, right? Like people are like, oh, like we're the nerd group, we're the furry
like
group,
communities of people. Yeah,
correct. And I think that the key aspect in that is like, at the end of the day, all of us want some sense of connection, belonging. Like we want to find our tribe, and I think for anyone who kind of goes down the realm of whether it be alcohol use disorder, addiction, identity crisis, like all of these things, it's this sense of wanting to kind of figure life out and feel connected, loved, belonged, seen, heard, like all of those things. And we all as humans go through life and have different experiences, and we could have traumatic experiences or things that happen to us that aren't, life is hard. Like nobody goes through life perfectly, right? Nobody has a perfect family. Nobody has a perfect thing. I think the aspect of looking at ourselves really honestly and becoming okay with who we are in our story and being willing to explore and find our tribe, because I believe everyone has a tribe. I believe that there are people that you are meant to connect with and that you're going to find similarities and likeness in
sure.
and all of those things. I think sometimes we get lured into the wrong things of filling that void before we ever get to experience that, like, hey, some of this is like normal, like with kind of figuring out and wanting to belong and connection, and actually exploring and finding our tribe,
Yeah, no, like it's simply as putting it that way you're saying is, like, you could be a nerd at heart, and instead of trying to be like who you are, you could be trying to fit in and be cool like all your friends and going and drinking and doing all stuff that doesn't fulfill
what's the
you.
definition of being a social drinker?
Exactly.
I love when those test screenings, when the health screenings come up and like you consider yourself an avid drinker of alcohol, a social drinker.
Right. What does that even mean, right? Like I
what
have
does
to
that even
drink
mean?
to be social.
Yeah, I drink because I socialize to drink, or I
Yeah.
am drinking because I'm in a social situation. You know what else you can do in a social situation? Play Uno.
Yeah.
Play cards, games.
For sure.
Like
Well,
those are
you know,
social
like
situations.
I found myself recently avoiding social situations because of that.
Yeah.
There you go.
I didn't go to Mexico recently to a friend's wedding. One, because like I'm not as close with him as I used to be. It was like the notice of trying to find a place. And two, I knew we were just going to be drinking and eating tacos for a week. And I was like, I'm not trying to do that. I like, as much as like I wish the happiness and love and all that of my friend, I just didn't want to put myself in a position where I'm going to have to either be awkward or
Right.
have to drink for a week.
Yeah.
Now, if you tell me that we're going to Mexico because we're going to the rainforest, or not the rainforest, but the
Whatever,
forest,
we're
and we're
going
going
on
to go
adventures and all
explore.
this
I was
stuff.
like, what rainforest? Yeah. Mexico.
Yeah, right. We're going to zip line.
Yeah,
we're
no,
going to
yeah,
go
yeah.
to
Yeah,
this
yeah,
culture
yeah.
center.
Ride on some dunes.
Ride on
Yeah,
some
yeah.
dunes. Like, that's a different story.
No,
you
for
know?
sure. And I think
Or even just go get some tacos.
Yeah.
Or just get some tacos in Mexican food.
100%.
Absolutely.
But I think the courage to show up authentically, right? I think a lot of people struggle with the courage to show up authentically because they're so busy trying to fit into what they think people
That's
need
so
to
funny
see
you
for
said
them
that. I'm
to-
sorry to cut you off.
No, it's
I
okay.
literally have a message in my drafts saying to him, bro, I'm so sorry that I couldn't make, because I told him before that I wasn't going to go, but I want to message him again. And it's like probably like 3 weeks since the wedding. And I have it literally in my drafts like, hey, bro, I just want to say, first of all, I love you so much and I'm so happy for you guys. But I just wanted to let you know that I didn't want to put myself in a place that would make me feel uncomfortable or feel like I'm a Debbie Downer towards that. That was my number one thing. I didn't want to be there being like,
yeah.
why are we drinking? Or
And it's
why are
incredible.
this and that and
Yeah,
that? And,
and
it's like,
it's-
this
Or
isn't
why
my
are you
wedding.
not drinking
This is
or
my
whatever.
wedding,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah, yeah.
It ain't my wedding. I'm
Yeah.
gonna let them have a great time and
Yeah.
I'm gonna focus
And
on
it's,
me.
it's
That's it.
incredible that we're in that kind of world right now where we have to like, oh man, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want to share this real quick as we start closing here. Here's a few facts and I want us to kind of share our closing thoughts with these facts.
Okay.
Some of these have connections to actual sources. Some of these are just general information that I found. According to the NIAAA, which we mentioned earlier, nearly 15 million people in the U.S. had AUD in 2022, just a few years ago.
15 million. How many people were in the U.S.? What, 300, 400?
300 and something
300.
million, something like that.
That's a lot. of
1 in
people.
10 deaths among working age adults ages 20 to 64 is due to excessive alcohol use.
It's one of the most dangerous.
That's
I'm
that's-
sure that's understood.
that's according to
I'm
the
sure that's
CDC.
underreported because
For sure.
you think alcohol, and they're probably just speaking specifically from AUD.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or
They're
there
not
was like
taking
a
all the people that are
alcohol
dying
poisoning.
in car accidents and all that crap.
That's probably involved
it's
in there
probably
too,
so
right?
Yeah.
much higher.
Yeah.
Only about 1 in 10 of those receive treatment. AUD affects people of all backgrounds. No one is immune. It affects every culture in
It
the
does.
planet.
Yeah.
So, when thinking about closing thoughts, I immediately go to the statement that I love saying, like, there is support out there, there is hope out there.
Absolutely.
Definitely seek out, reach out. There's places. South Florida Wellness Network is just one of like dozens upon millions, even probably, that are there to help. Not just like actual organizations, but like family members. Like maybe you have a family member who you can just let them know, hey, I'm struggling with this, and they can connect you with somebody. Therapist, psychologist. If you're somebody in school right now, a school counselor, whether it be university or high school or middle school. All right, now there's schools in Broward County where we have middle schoolers dying and having overdoses. Like this is a real thing happening. And so if no matter what your age is, if you find yourself in this position, hope is out there. Connect with resources. And if you don't know where to start, at least start talking about it with somebody in your life.
I think it's so important, like you said, to find your community as a human. Like, I think there's no more important thing you can. I don't think there's any more important thing you can do, because it falls along with the line of purpose. So when you find your community, you find your purpose. So I feel like when you find yourself in a position where you're falling in line with the alcoholic community, and like you need to start to like acknowledge that and start to try to figure out a way to back up, because that is the least fulfilling community of people. It is the least fulfilling thing you could do for yourself. Alcohol provides absolutely zero value at all. Like, I can't say one positive thing about it. You could say, yeah, you can drink and it makes you more liquid courage, but that's gonna run out. It could get you into bad situations with that liquid courage. My friend, who's one of the most liquid courage people I know, when he drinks, get all the girls, but guess what? I don't know if I told you, he's the one that has charges right now for reckless endangerment and talking to cops, and that's where that gets you. When you're drunk and you're belligerent, it has you doing things that are drunk and belligerent. So I think you really need to find yourself finding other communities and other things that are going to have you more aligned with who you are, whether that's being a nerd, whether that's Naruto, Power Rangers, whatever it is. Follow those communities of people, and you're going to be way more fulfilled than any alcohol or anything would bring to you. That's just my perspective, my opinion.
And even if that community is like AA meetings, like
literally
absolutely
anything is more beneficial. Any other community is more beneficial than that one.
And think about like why you're drinking. As somebody who, has struggled, had alcohol use disorder, among drug addiction, all of that, is like, if I have real issues and problems at the end of the day, and I'm using alcohol to cope with that, alcohol is a depressant. You may in the moment drink yourself into oblivion where you don't remember, but the next day you still have those same issues, you still have those same feelings. And so really, recovery is the process of looking at, okay, how am I going to actually start working through those things? And there's freedom on the other side of that. Same with alcohol. And then it becomes less important for you to escape your challenges rather than saying, hey, I'm going to move through this, because on the other side of that is that greater person that I know that God created me to be. And so finding support with that, is super important. And then the other aspect of it is like, man, the best part about recovery is like, I don't need liquid courage to be myself. Like, I authentically love myself today because I was willing to walk through those emotions, deal with myself and my problems to where I can show up today and be silly and be fun. And there is so much fun without alcohol. Like, I promise you, I remember like feeling, because I was young when I came into recovery, like, how am I gonna like, do life? How am I going to get married and not drink? How am I was thinking all of these things as like a young person, because I was, in my early 20s, and that was the culture of like early 20s is like 21, you drink. And my gosh, like my life is so full, and I've been in recovery for almost 9 years now, like no substances, and it's just like, I can't even imagine, like, I don't even want that. Like, it's just like, everything that I have today, I'm like, is just the most fulfilling thing ever. And I don't even think about needing a substance to escape anything, because I deal with life,
Yeah,
so.
just to share really quick.
And that's one thing I've noticed. Sorry. A lot of people that are fulfilled typically don't need to do anything like that.
Yeah. Just to share really quickly, I because your story, what you said right now, it just reminded me at my wedding. I remember when my wife and I got married, obviously we had a family there. It was a wonderful celebration. But during the dancing part of it, I was going ham, like crazy, jumping around.
I think I saw
having
pictures
fun.
and videos on social media. I was like, he had fun.
I was going insane. They gave me a microphone, and for some reason, like the DJ was like, "Yeah, here's a microphone." Start singing songs. I was like, "Okay." So literally, as the songs are going, I'm just screaming it into the microphone. Super fun. But we had an open bar at our wedding, and I remember I had a friend of mine come on that day after everything. We were cleaning up, we were about to leave actually, and he comes to me and he says, "Hey, Christian, like, bro, you were like insane at the dance floor. Like, did you like how many shots did you have?" And I was like, "What are you talking about? I didn't drink tonight." He was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "You had an open bar." I was like, I didn't drink tonight. I was just having fun, hanging around, just whatever." And the look on his face, like, what?
That's so funny. I used to get that all the time back when I like I said, I didn't drink until I was 21, and like we went to clubs before 21 and bars that were allowed, and like I always went sober, and it was the same thing for me. They'd be like, "Bro, how are you like dancing and able to function?" I'm like, "I enjoy dancing, so I'm gonna dance at a club when there's dance music on." And I feel like a lot of times with people when they drink, they're just trying so hard to be cool. And like,
or to be comfortable getting out doing what they want.
Yeah.
But I always challenge people too, because I go out with my friends and like, you know, some of them drink because they don't have that issue, but they're always amazed. And I think it's like, you know, we set that culture too of coming out and being like, man, sober's cool. Like I could go out, have fun, dance, and like be completely sober.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there's a new culture coming out that I've seen more recently of more sober people like doing that, which I think is awesome.
I agree. They should be able to party. I think that just because you went through some sort of phase in your life where you were addicted to a substance, whether it be alcohol or drugs, like that, but you still enjoy like having fun, going out to party, like that shouldn't stop you.
It's just a different generation as far as dance. Just people just don't dance as much, other than like Instagram dancers and TikTok dancers. But like back in the day, in the 90s and 80s,
which is crazy to think about.
People are going to dance clubs and they're dancing.
This is the age of TikTok dance moves, and like
that's the thing.
Online is no problem, but in person, forget it.
That's the thing. You'll have people
that's a combo.
in the club on their phones, like looking at TikToks. Probably
that's a combo for another day. Although I do want to talk about that. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you so much sticking around and listening all the way to the end. Thank you so much for all YouTube watchers. Thank you so much for watching with us. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share the podcast with any friend. Make sure to follow us, please. We're doing really good. We're in 140 something, which is really great. Last year, I remember we were begging people, please get us to 100, and now we're at over like 140. So
and we will be posting more.
And we'll be posting more. We were taking this small like hiatus due to everything that we explained in the last episode that you guys saw, the bowl one. If you are audio listeners over on Apple Music, Spotify, podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate you as well. Make sure to give us a 5-star rating if you can, please, and also share the podcast whenever you can. And also, a little bit of an update. We have a TikTok page, guys.
Yes.
We're joining the world. We also have an Instagram. So
please don't ban TikTok, because we just got established.
Yeah, we just got established on TikTok, so don't ban TikTok. So we'll have the Instagram link in the bottom, the TikTok link in the bottom, and the South Florida Wellness page linked in the bottom. Other than that, we will see you all next week for more podcast fun.
All right, bye.